e-waste program. Sorry, I don't have a joke this time. Anyway, so as an example of how large urban facilities process their own e-waste, we decided to look at our beloved NYU. So what is NYU's program? What do they do with e-waste? Well, basically the program is maintained by facilities management. It's part of their recycling initiative. And it processes two large categories of e-waste. The first is techno-scrap, which is smaller disposable electronic components, batteries, MP3 players, things like that are typically in residence halls. And the second category is larger electronic waste from offices such as terminals, computers, servers, etc. How do they reach out to students, employees, and residents? Well, recycling is advertised throughout New York University, but there is no specific e-waste outreach in general. What are the future plans of NYU's program? Basically, NYU is considering new recyclers to handle its e-waste. As Jamie mentioned, NYU currently partners with Green Disc, which is a great company because they process every type of e-waste, but not so great for us because they are in Portland, which is the other side of the country. And transporting e-waste all the way across the country does not necessarily fit in with the goal of sustainability that NYU is trying to promote. So as one possible collaboration suggestion, as an example of how the Lower East Side Ecology Center can partner with urban facilities, we suggest that perhaps the NYU Manhattan campuses could send their e-waste to future recycling partners that they hope to align with, perhaps Lower East Side Ecology Center. Whereas NYU Poly and NYU CUSP, which is the Center for Urban Science and Progress in Brooklyn, due to be opened in September of 2013, collaborates specifically with the Lower East Side Ecology Center warehouse, which could collect its own e-waste and process it there on site. So now, Belinda is going to speak to you about film equipment.
Hello. So how many of you have seen a film set like this on the sidewalk? Yes, exactly. And the reason why that's a very common experience is because there are about 200 film productions shot in the city each year. And each of these productions requires a large amount of electronics, from cameras to cables to audio equipment to mixing boards and monitors, you name it. Filmmakers rent this equipment from rental houses, and it gets used over and over again in many productions, and eventually, due to the high use, it breaks. So here are some statistics on production shot in the city. To the right, we see that there's about 200 shot each year, films. And then to the left, we see a steadily growing number of TV series shot in the city. And this healthy and growing sector of the economy has produced a huge network of local film rental houses. And these film rental houses present an excellent partnership opportunity for the Lower East Side Ecology Center to collect more electronic waste. To facilitate these partnerships, we contacted a number of local businesses to discuss how they currently manage their e-waste, and we compiled a list of company profiles, including contact information for the specific staff who's responsible for overseeing e-waste management in each organization, as well as an overview of their current recycling practices and any challenges they face in managing their electronic waste. So the last thing I'd like to emphasize is that there's really been a demonstrated industry interest in adopting green practices already. The Lower East Side Ecology Center currently partners with Film Biz Recycling, which is an organization that provides sustainability consulting services to film sets, and has already diverted over 285 tons of materials from landfills through their reused prop shop. And in 2008, the Mayor's Office of Film Theory and Broadcast also partnered with NBC to collect over 360,000 pounds of e-waste. So considering the increasing number of productions shot in the city, along with this industry interest in supporting sustainability initiatives, we're just very, very excited about the potential that for these partnerships with local film rental houses. Thank you. And now I'm going to pass it on to Mary Kate.
Hi. So another way that we thought the Ecology Center could work to expand its partnership base is to form a closer-knit community with the businesses and organizations that surround the warehouse. So this is an existing flyer that the Ecology Center has already created. What we propose to say, distribute the flyer to these businesses just to get their name out there, get people excited and interested in e-waste. They can even do something like have an e-waste party where at the warehouse where guests bring e-waste with them to sort of kick it off and just really get interest going. They can also do something similar, create a similar flyer with Compost just to make sure everyone knows about the Ecology Center and what they do. So sort of switching gears into composting, a great way for the Ecology Center to forge new partnerships without increasing their volume is to work with colleges and universities within New York City. So what we did was we looked at Mount Holyoke College, which is located in Western Massachusetts, as a case study. They do a lot of great sustainability efforts similar to NYU, but what we were most interested in was their post-consumer composting program, which they implemented in all of their dining halls in 2005. So post-consumer composting is basically just food waste that students say they take on their plate, they don't finish, and then they throw it out. Well, you can compost that. So basically how it works is they have two bins, one for liquids and one for food scraps, and students separate their food into these bins, and it's taken to a local farm in Belchertown, Massachusetts, where it's broken down into compost, and then it's applied to the soil and helps the plants grow. And Holyoke actually buys some of its produce back from these farms, which is really cool because it helps create a somewhat closed loop system. So in terms of NYU, they've done a lot of great sustainability efforts recently, but what they lack right now is a really strong post-consumer composting program. So if you look at this graph, this is a breakdown of their landfill of waste, and you can see about 60% of it is comprised of compostable material. So that represents a really great potential for NYU to reduce its waste stream. So basically what we propose is NYU draws upon Mount Holyoke's composting program, have volunteers stationed in the dining halls, make sure everyone knows where everything's going, and then once the program has sort of taken hold, the volunteers can be phased out. And then once the program has been refined, it can be spread to other colleges and universities within New York. And in terms of where to send this compost, there are lots of community gardens that accept compost throughout the city, and Greg is going to talk a little bit more about that.
Very good. So I'm going to talk to you about our final recommendation, which is a quick two-parter, visualizing compost with databases. Basically, we suggest the creation of a composting location database using either SIDEWALK, which is structured query language, or another similar free programming language. An intern or an employee could be hired, unpaid or paid, to assume database duties and maintenance, controlling whether or not those sites are updated. And as a part of the information for each individual site that accepts compost, the name, location, partnerships, as well as capacities could be updated regularly. This database could be integrated into the Lower East Side Ecology Center's website, along with a GIS, that is Geographic Information Systems map, that could be shown to spread awareness. Here you see a very simple outline of a map which we put together. The little red X is the Lower East Side Ecology Center, and all of the green dots are composting locations, which are community gardens in New York City, different sizes depending on their capacities. This is a very simple overlay, but depending on what the Ecology Center is trying to accomplish, you can basically overlay any sort of visual that you would like. Here's a street map, and here's an aerial map. And when those are integrated together, they can be shown to other businesses, organizations, and composters who would like to find out more about what they can do. So to summarize our proposals as a group, we suggest that the Lower East Side Ecology Center become an eSteward certified collector of e-waste, that they partner with schools and urban facilities in general, such as NYU, which is preferred, that they partner with local film rental houses, that they distribute flyers by making a personable connection, and that they maintain a visual database of compost collecting sites and integrate it into their website. Thank you very much. And now we move on to the outreach group.
Hi, I'm Jocelyn again, and this is Kristen and Matthew and Connie, and we form the Outreach and Education section of our project. So just to reiterate, we are trying to help the Ecology Center really expand their visibility and their programming and reach out to a wider participant base who may not be composting or recycling their e-waste already, but doing this without kind of straining their manpower and spatial capacity. And we also really we focused on taking the opportunity to really innovate and be creative in this very important environmental field that doesn't really have any infrastructure that's put in place by the city at all. So our main strategies include simplifying participation for people who might not be composting or doing e-waste already, providing alternative incentives for non-environmentalists, using kind of creative visual strategies kind of in the streets of New York to draw in people who wouldn't necessarily seek it out, and also partnering with New York City's designers and innovators to help us through this process. So our first recommendation was to do installations for compost on the streets, which this was inspired by an installation a couple of years ago where 60 hand-painted pianos appeared on the streets of New York. And this was a really exciting project because it forced people to participate with playing the pianos, and also everyone who walked by wanted to figure out what they were and where they had come from, so it had this kind of simultaneous online life. So this project is a kind of transparent composting bin that separately collects seeds and compost. And the bin would be taken back to the ecology center, seeds would be sprouted with the compost, and then they'd be returned to the street for passersby just to take as they want. So the exciting thing about this is that it shows people who don't really understand the utility of compost, because they don't maybe have a backyard or a garden, how that's important. And then it also depends on participation to function, as opposed to kind of a passive learning process. So this is just an illustration of the kind of condensed closed loop of compost that the installation represents. Our second idea for compost was to have a design competition. This is an idea that we had because there is so little infrastructure and there isn't going to be curbside composting in New York City anytime soon that we can think of. So we're really looking for designers to kind of come up with innovative and exciting solutions for this problem. So we wanted designers to kind of think about the problem with composting at any of a variety of scales. So either it's your apartment building or a city block or a specific neighborhood, but we really want them to be particular to New York City. And then the best submissions would be exhibited and displayed online, and they'd also be judged by a panel of experts in sustainability and design. This is helpful because it would kind of spark a conversation about composting conceptually, but also potentially find implementable solutions.